It gives me great pleasure to introduce this session with four eminent guests who have taken time out of their weekends to be with us here live in Dublin City and County in Malahide. And I'd like to introduce on the screens we have the Mayor of Greater Manchester, Mr. Andy Burnham. The Vice Mayor of Paris, Miss Anoush Tirani. And the former member of Boston City Council and author, Mr. Larry Di Cara. Thank you so much for being with us this afternoon. We've been given a remit by our Houses of the Oireachtas, our Parliament here in Ireland, to consider what is the best type of directly elected mayor and local government structures that are best suited to the great city of Dublin City and County. And we would like now to hand over to you as our international guest to make a 10-minute presentation. I would ask you if you can stay in line after the presentation to take a question and answer session for approximately 5 minutes. So 45 minutes, excuse me. So we will start off with the Mayor of Greater Manchester, Mr. Andy Burnham.
Oh, thanks very much. It's good to be with you all. I was in Dublin in person recently on a joint trade mission with the Mayor of the Liverpool City region. It was the first time that two English mayors had been over, and we couldn't have had a warmer welcome. The green carpet was well and truly rolled out, so we're really grateful for that. And obviously we have such strong ties to our friends there in Dublin and Ireland, so great to be joining you this afternoon. For those of you who don't know, I was 16 years in the UK Parliament as a Member of Parliament for a constituency in the north of England. Now, sadly, a red wall constituency, but we're hoping to change that back. I was a junior minister or a Minister of State in the Blair government and then a cabinet minister in the Brown government. So I've kind of seen politics at different levels. But if you like, the change that I made, I kind of fell out of love with the Westminster system because if anything drew me to go there, it was to speak for the north of England and get a better deal for the north of England from what is a very London-centric country, as you know. And I just found I couldn't do it. Myself and Steve, the Mayor of Liverpool, you may remember that we worked jointly on Hillsborough. And that is a prime example of how an over-centralised political system completely ignores the voice of a city crying for justice. And the city was right, as we know, and the government was wrong. And it was that experience of trying to fight that issue within the government that sort of drew me on a different path, if you like. I fell out of love with the Westminster world that I've been a part of. And when the new role of Mayor of Greater Manchester came along, I felt that was more right for me, and Steve felt for him. So the two of us went together to become the first mayors of Greater Manchester in the Liverpool City region. And none of us, we don't look back at all. You know, when you're out of Westminster, you can do things so differently. When you're starting at the city level, it's a place first approach, not a party first approach. It just makes politics work very differently, and neither of us regret it. And 5 years on, it is 5 years now that both of us have been in these roles. I like to think that the voice of the north of England is getting louder and stronger all of the time, and hopefully we've played a part in that. In terms of the structure, just to give you a feeling for what structure we have, and obviously everywhere is different, and look forward to hearing from Anoush and Larry on this topic, because you can do it differently, and you know that's very much an individual decision. For us, we had a debate in England about regional devolution during the Blair government. And there was a sort of move to impose a regional layer at the northwest level rather than the city region level. And you might remember there was a referendum on it first in the northeast of England, and it went down very heavily. And I think the public always kind of will be skeptical about another layer of politicians at a sort of fairly remote level. And I think what we've done with English devolution to the city regions now is coming at it a much better way, because our model takes the building blocks of local government, not a new layer created. So in my case, the Greater Manchester Combined Authority is the 10 councils of Greater Manchester, Manchester, Salford, but then Wigan, Bolton, Bury, Rochdale, Oldham, and then going around the south, Tameside, Stockport, Trafford. I think I've mentioned them all there. They are the GMCA, and they come together to form that administration that I lead. I'm the 11th member, if you like, of the GMCA, and that's the model for English devolution outside of London. And I think it's working well. It's different to London, and I would always say this, wouldn't I? But it's superior to London, because if you look at London, the Mayor of London created 20 years ago, and that obviously has been a model that's worked. But you've got a mayor there, and a new layer was created, the GLA, the Greater London Authority, and that is separate to the councillors and the councils in London. And there's a sort of gap between the 30 or so councils and the GLA. In our case, there is no gap. It's quite a lean system, but not just lean from a sort of financial point of view. If we decide on a direction of travel in Greater Manchester, myself and the 10 councils, and given that we have a degree of health devolution, all of our system will move as one together, the whole thing. There will be real alignment all the way through, from the bottom right up to the top and back down again. And we've made big progress on some social issues like homelessness because of that approach, where everyone pulls in the same direction, and you don't have the sort of fragmentation that you get perhaps in other places. So that's our model. I think it is working. I could point you to many reasons why. I think other reasons, but hopefully you've got a sense of this, the efficiency of the system, but also the kind of the simplicity of it, which I think is important. And then the mayor is just a one addition, if you like, that creates the voice for the city region. I'll finish, Jim, if I just make three quick points. I'm personally really pleased to see Limerick first and now Dublin moving in this direction. I think it is the way to go. Let me just give you 3 reasons why. Firstly, I do think it makes politics work better. If you're starting with place, Dublin or Manchester, rather than party, well, you're starting with something that unites people. Everybody believes in that place and wants it to do well. And it is doing well from what I saw on my last visit, but I'm sure it can do even more. So place first rather than party first is a good starting point. And I think it puts the emphasis on the practical rather than the political, and actually means that everything's not conducted through the prism of national politics and the things that are going on there. And I think that's a really good way of making politics work better. Secondly, I think it works policy work better. In the 21st century, and Paris is showing this, absolutely leading the way through the amazing Mayor Anne Hidalgo in Paris, cities are driving the race to net zero from the bottom up. That's where the change is happening. That's where the new ways of thinking, the new ways of living are being brought on first. That's where the new technologies are being proved. And this is a race that will be won from the bottom up, not from the top down. You can't legislate your way to net zero. You've got to persuade people to change. You've got to improve transport. You've got to improve people's homes, retrofit them. That's why you need to be able to make things work more quickly from a city region level and build partnerships between industry and academia and everybody else. So I think it makes you're setting yourself up for the future by having strong city regional governments, I think, going forward. And the last point, Jim, very quickly, is tomorrow here in Manchester, we will be marking 5 years since the bomb at the Manchester Arena. And obviously you'll probably all remember that moment and where you were when you heard the news about that. And it's still something that, is raw here in our city, and it'll be a difficult day in Manchester yesterday. And it came not long after the Bataclan and everything that happened there, and there were similarities. All I can say is sometimes in the world that we live in, cities do need leadership. The people of cities need leadership in those moments so that they can kind of come through those difficult moments. Look at what Mayor Klitschko has done in Kiev through the war. Amazing leadership. And I just think you know, Ireland, Dublin is ready, I would think, right now to, you know, to come into that same space. We've only just got there. We left it too long. But I think, you know, for reasons of better politics, better policy, strong voice, I think, you know, a system of city region governance is the way to go. And I hope ours might be of interest to you. I'll leave it there, Jim, and I'll hand back to you.